everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are or whether you're watching this on recording. We want to welcome you and thank you for joining us for another session for the IDC. That's the Institute of Diversity Certifications, and this is the Careers and Collaborations group on LinkedIn. And so I am Victor Simmons, HR and DEI strategist with the Victorious Endeavors. I'm the founder and the principal consultant for that. While I'm still looking, don't get it twisted. I'm still out there looking for the next corporate opportunity. So I'm just going to lay that out there for anybody. And today we're delving into a hot topic, given all this going on, particularly what we're hearing about these three scary letters, DEI. So with all of that, I was just telling my panelists here about something coming up with the EEOC again. So we'll see what happens there. But today, we are going to be talking about DEI as a leadership pathway. I still have people that come to me and say, "Oh, are people still doing DEI?" Yes. If you are out there as an inclusive leader, then I got news for you. If you are listening to everybody's perspective, if you're a leader that wants to hear from everybody, guess what you're doing? Okay. So I am thrilled to be joined by my fantastic co-host, Dr. Rhea Horton, and a very special guest. I cannot wait till y'all get to meet her. And so we'll get to that in just a moment. Rhea, I want to turn it over to you first. And why don't you introduce yourself and tell the folks a little bit about you? And is there anything new going on with you? It's good to see you. So anything new happening? Tell us a little bit about what's happening with you.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Sorry if you saw me looking over here. I was trying to make sure that we broadcasted our LinkedIn Live here so that we can make sure that the proper groups are aware that we are here. So if you're listening, go ahead and tap in a friend as well. Let them know. Come join the conversation so that way they don't miss out on the good information that we'll be sharing. But for those who I haven't yet been introduced to, my name is Dr. Rhea Horton. I'm the founder and CEO of Career Bliss, LLC, where we focus on supporting Gen Z and early career talent in corporate spaces through work readiness and performance improvement. And so if that sounds of interest to you or something that you're curious to learn more about, I invite you to connect with me, follow me, or you could check out my website. As far as anything new going on, not too much new personally. There's probably a lot of new things going on. We have new family members, as in a new baby niece who I just love loving on. And tomorrow, my oldest son, he's all of 5 years old, he is going to graduate, and I am prepared for the tears to happen watching him cross the stage and the little program that they have and having family over. So personally, a lot has definitely been going on. So that's what's new with me.
Awesome. All right, y'all, get ready for this. Lori Ferguson, she's a senior director of DEI for Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield. So, okay, that's what she does. But let me tell you what she really does. I got to New Jersey not knowing anyone aside from the regional director who had promoted me and got me out from California to New Jersey. And Lori was the first person in the DEI space that I connected with. We were in the Tri-State Diversity Council, I think it was, and we connected. And she is just a wealth of information, and not just like the stuff that you would see like in the textbooks. I mean, she gives you the real stuff. And she tells you like it is. Like if I'm off base, she's gonna say, "Victor, wait a minute. I don't think that's the right way to go." And I love that. I just love that. And of course, she's just so much fun to be around with. So will y'all please put your hands together for Lori Ferguson. Lori, tell us, how are you doing? It's so good to see you. It has been too dang long for us to get together. So I'm glad we're finally doing this. How are you? And tell us what's happening with you. What's going on with you?
So I am fantastic. While this is a very rough time for people who work in this space, I happen to work for an organization that is true to this, right? Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey has, for at least the past 5 years, been practicing diversity, equity, and inclusion the right way. And so all of the things that I I would never have said this before, but I agree with our president that we need to be focused on merit. And if you are focused on merit, that is going to come in a lot of different packages. You
Yeah.
need diversity. You need to ensure that there's equity for people who have historically been left out of conversations or overlooked, or their talents haven't been utilized to their fullest. And you definitely need to be inclusive of all. And all of that should be based on what people bring to the table, their merit. So I'm happy. I am extremely grateful for the challenge that this brings us, because it just demonstrates that we've been doing the right thing the entire time. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. See what I mean? See what I mean? And the other thing I love about this, though, again, because for people that are listening, they are out front and center. There's a lot of folks that are that are still doing the work, but are being quiet about it because they are concerned about the litigious nature of what's happening, and that is a real thing. But when you explain it, instead of just saying DEI, right? It's not a thing, right? There is a whole component of diversity. There's a whole component when we're talking about equity. There's a whole body of work around inclusion and what that means. It's not just those three words, and it's not just one thing. It's a whole body of work. So I appreciate you and your company being out there doing the real work, the real work. So having said that, let's get into what we wanted to talk about today. We want to talk about this group, Dr. Rhea and I. We help folks that are in the Institute for Diversity Certification, or those that are listening in that are thinking about, is DEI something that I should still get into, or I am in here, but what can I now do? How do I get to the next level? We want to navigate through those things. So first question I have for you is, let's talk about the DEI practitioners. How do they develop the leadership skills that go beyond their core competencies? There's a whole, the thing that Rhea and I went through, right? There was an entire book, right, with all these different competencies. So having said that, how do they develop these skills?
So I haven't read that book. Share it with me, and I'll tell you what I really think about it, because
Yes, you will.
I
Yes,
will
you
I will share with you my thoughts on that book. But some of the things that I think people who are in this space, practitioners and leaders in the DEI space, need are the basic leadership competencies, like communication. You have to be able to effectively communicate your strategy, the why, the how, to the people that you are trying to influence. Influence is definitely
will.
something that you need. You need to be able to open people's eyes to things that they may not have been aware of previously, or that did not seem important to them at some point. You have to have commitment and conviction. You
Yeah.
need to be ready to stand by what you know is the right thing to do. And sometimes you have to have resilience, because you won't always get there the first time. So you have to keep going back to leaders and saying, I know we talked about this 2 months ago, but I still think this is the right thing to do. What are we going to do to make this happen? Whether that's a leadership program, whether that's, expanding your recruitment sources, whether that's, looking at who you're promoting in your organization. All of those things matter. What demographics you're marketing your products to. So there's a lot of skills that come along with being a DEI practitioner, and especially a DEI leader. You also have to know the psychology of humans, right? You need to, it said, there's a verse that says, know thine enemy. Like, know the people who are your obstacles. You need to
Yeah.
know what the challenge is. You need to understand what their motivation is. You can't combat hate, but you can combat ignorance. Hate is internal. It's been bred. Like, it's there. Like, I'm not going to make you love me if you hate me. But if
Yeah.
you're ignorant and you don't understand what I bring to the table, I can share that with you. I can enlighten you. I can show you what other cultures bring to the wealth of our organization, how all of that makes us better. So I think conviction, psychology, discernment,
Mm,
is
love it.
important, because you got to know when and what to fight for. If you're fighting for everything, if you are trying to move everything forward, some things are going to get lost. Focus on the top 2 or 3 things that you want to see done in a given year or in a given 5-year period and work doggedly to get those things done. So
Yeah.
those are some of the things that, all leaders need, but particularly DEI leaders. There are a few more that I think are particular to a DEI leader that I want to share here. Introspection. You
Mm,
have to look at yourself and what your motivation is,
yeah.
and whether or not you are in this work for the right reasons, and whether you have the mental and social and psychological fortitude, emotional fortitude to stay in this. You can't be a fair weather DEI leader. There
Yeah.
are some people who like enter the fields, they worked in finance, and I happen to be, whatever your demographic makeup is, and I think I would be a great leader in DEI just because I happen to be a diverse person, someone who is not a typical leader in this space. That does not make you a great DEI leader.
Yeah.
You need to understand why you're doing it. You need to understand that it's not just for your particular demographic. Like, I am not here just for, heterosexual Black women, mothers,
Yeah.
wives. I am here for every human
Yeah.
being that I can impact, right? And that includes people who look absolutely nothing like me. And if that's not your reason, please step aside and let somebody else lead. Another one is competence and confidence, right? You have to be as competent as you are confident. We don't need a bunch of bold dummies, and we don't need a bunch of smart, quiet mice, right? We need people who have both. We need people who are willing to speak up, but also know what they're talking about. So educate yourself and accept that you're great. Like, if you are now, if you again, I don't need any more megalomaniacs. We don't need any more megalomaniacs on this planet. But if you are delivering something of value, accept that, feel it, own it, share it. Like, share it with others, encourage other people. So there's so many things we need to know as leaders, but that's about 10. I know you asked for a
Woo.
few, but
Okay, that was a roller coaster right there. Let me tell you. I do want to touch on a couple of things because and I did hear you say that early on, and I want to just put an exclamation point on this. That while this was for DEI leaders, I heard you say this, that it is, all of these are particularly for any kind of leader, and I, absolutely agree with that. I think that that is what is paramount, because regardless of what people will have you think, we all bring ourselves, we try to bring ourselves to work, and we only bring a certain amount depending on the environment around us. And that is what slows down the culture. That's what slows down productivity when we are making ourselves small. And so if we are doing the competencies that you just ran us through, then it doesn't matter whether you're a DEI leader, whether you're the project manager. Just say project manager. That just came up. If you want to get your thing pushed through, right, you got to
yeah,
be able to figure out the different, why is that person quiet? Why is this person taking up a lot of space, right? You got to figure that out to get everybody
yes,
going in the right direction. And I love what made me think about when you were talking about emotional intelligence. I think about, my career was in operations for maybe a quarter of my career, and then a lot of it I was in HR since 2000, and then got into DEI in around 2018. Well, in the mid 2000s, I can remember doing I've always been a champion of DEI, and I remember doing some programming around there. So I'm an HR director, I'm doing some programming, and someone comes forward and has something to say, always, when you're doing a Heritage Month event, and someone will say, well, why aren't you doing anything for white people? How come you're not doing anything for white people? And my low E over I responded saying, well, as soon as this happens, or as soon as that happens, not having the right
mm,
E over I, right? And so um, once I got into diversity and inclusion, I learned, wait, if I'm going to bring people along, that's not the way to make it happen, right?
no,
So, and I think we did see a lot of that. I'll move on in just a second. I just got to get it out. That is, excuse me, why I think we are to some extent where we are today, because we did have people, oh, you're a person of color, okay, you lead the DEI efforts, and they didn't have these competencies that you just ran through,
Right.
and that's what I think got into a little bit of trouble. So thank you for that. You touched on influencing, so I want to drill down on that. What are the best practices for influencing, creating systemic change from a leadership position?
So, first, you need to understand your audience, understand what's in it for them. So, if you are trying to, all cultural change starts from within. People talk about organizations as if they're this standalone thing. They're made up of human beings, right? All organizations are made up of human beings, and there are some human beings that have more sway, influence on the culture of your organization than others. Oftentimes, it's your most senior leaders who have the most impact, but that's from a visible perspective. Who really has the impact are the middle managers who are impacting the people, the majority of the people on a daily basis that work for your organization. And as such, you have to understand what they're motivated by. What do they want from this organization? Do they want to achieve goals? Well, then you have to explain to them how your efforts in diversity, equity, and inclusion help to impact their bottom line. How broadening their scope of a view of who and what talent is can help them achieve their goals faster. And I'll share this with you because I am my worst person when I am driving. And whenever I see someone in a vehicle that I either once owned or I have now, I'm like, okay, me and this person are going to ride out, right? Like they're in a white vehicle like I have. We're about to make our way through this traffic, and then they're driving slow, or they cut someone off, and I'm like, you're not like me. You look like me, but you are not like me on the inside, and that is, while it seems disconnected, that is what people leaders need to understand, that just because someone looks like you on the outside or has the same taste in vehicles or went to the same university or had the same life experiences, likes boating, likes golfing, likes whatever, does not mean that that person is going to be driven and help you achieve your goals. What
Yeah,
you need is a driven person who is smart, who is inquisitive, who's going to ask the right questions and will help you achieve your goals. So we need to go and understand what goals these leaders want to achieve so that we can help identify resources that will help them get there. And sometimes you have to be that resource. If you want to create partnerships and friendships with people and influential relationships, you sometimes have to pitch in. If one of your leaders is hosting a cultural event for the community. So say you work in finance. I've worked in finance and insurance practically my entire career, with a couple of caveats. But if you want to go into the Asian community or the Black community, because I'm talking about what I can do for you, you want to go into the Black community and you want to sell life insurance, or you want to sell people on getting a wealth manager. Having people there that don't understand why dad puts his money under the mattress as opposed to in a bank or in an investment, or understanding why my aunt is like, no, last time I did XYZ, the bank, charged me all of these fees. Like, you need to have people who have shared experiences to influence them to think about banking differently, to think about finance differently. And if you don't have that perspective, you can't do it. I'm not saying that someone who doesn't look like them can't have that perspective, but if you don't, then you won't get the business that you're looking for. So, as a leader in DEI, perhaps you get one of your ERGs to partner with that business leader to go out into the community to speak the language, right? We have 10 ERGs here at Horizon: Asian, Latino, African American. Those are our more cultural ones. We have a Muslim and a Shalom, which is our Jewish culture organization, right? These are cultural practices, cultural things that people understand, and they can go out and help the business grow. So that's how you influence. You influence by demonstrating what DEI can do for the bottom line.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. That's really the secret sauce. I don't know how we don't get that. but you got to tie it to the business. You have
Yeah.
to tie it to the business. That's what we are here to make. We are here to make. If you are a for profit, you're here to make a profit, and you
Mhm.
got to tie your objectives to the business. Love it.
And
That's
can I
wonderful.
add one more thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just came from our we have an annual celebration for, like you said, the different heritage months, right? So this month, in addition to a couple of other heritages, happens to be Asian Pacific Islander Native Hawaiian Heritage Month,
Mhm.
right? And so we
Yeah,
just had that event today, and part of my opening was telling people how much landmass Asia takes up of Earth, and what percentage of people are Asian or living in Asia right now. 60% of our population in the world. This is
wow.
why the word minority is a misnomer, because
Yeah,
60% of the population is Asian. So how are they a minority anywhere they go? They are the
yeah,
majority of the world. They're the majority of Earth, right? So
yeah, yeah,
let's just be clear about that.
yeah. Yeah.
But one of the things that stood out for me, and I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this, Victor? But anyhow,
Influencing.
influencing. But if you're a multinational organization and you are focused on what Americans like, in a particular demographic of Americans like, you are losing out on, at least 75% of your business, because America is the third largest country in the world. North America is the third largest continent in the world, behind Africa and Asia. So, do you really want to miss out on all of that money, all of that opportunity because of bigotry? That's
Right.
dumb. Let's not be stupid. Like, let's be smart about this. Be the
Yeah.
capitalist that we say we are. Capitalize on the people that have the money to support your business. It's a smart business decision.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I already see, my what's going. This is tickling me. It's really a side note, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Is that this platform will take certain takes and do little short videos. I already see something going viral right now. That's dumb. All right, that's wonderful. All right, let's keep it going. We let's see. I'm going to keep track of time. We usually go around 40 minutes, 45 minutes. We'll see how. Who knows where this is going to go.
Yes. And I apologize for dropping off. I promise as soon as Victor presses live, that's when my connection decides to stop working. So hopefully you can hear my question come through, because I think I'm dragging right now. But would
Yeah.
love to continue a bit of the dialogue regarding influence. I'm curious about how can you continue to like gain the support align with your mission. You gave a little bit of insight into that, of maybe do something for them. It also sounds like speaking their language, having a little bit of business
Mhm.
acumen is also helpful. So just want to see if there's any additional elements that could really help bring those leaders to the table to help move the needle for DEI.
So, I don't know if, and I'm not this, uh, quote an author type of person, but there's a book sitting right in front of me right now that says "Seeing Around Corners," "Seeing Around Corners," and it's written by a woman named Rita McGrath. And for me, the way that I can see around corners is by partnering with my HR business partners, the people who are operating on a daily basis to help our leaders in this organization lead their organizations through talent. And they know not only what talent is going to be needed for that division, they also know what big major projects people are being pulled from that division to participate on. And so, if you have a strong relationship with your HR business partners, your strategic HR business partners, you can be successful because they will carry your message for you. Whenever a young person tells me that they want to, or they have a desire to work in DEI, I often tell them I would prefer that you work in recruitment. I would prefer that you work as an HR business partner. I would prefer that you work in compensation. And the reason is that's where decisions are made. DEI professionals influence, but you being in that room on a daily basis where conversations are being had that I will never know, that will never see the light of day. I will never know about it. But if you really want to impact fairness and opportunity for people, for all people, then you need to be in those rooms. And so I rely on my teammates who are my HR business partners to help me influence and to gain sight on what are the business goals. What's important to, our leader in sales today? What's important to our technology leader today? Because if I don't know that, I can't help them.
I appreciate that. I think within the role, you have to definitely partner, in addition to HRPPs, also with your business leaders so that you can understand what is pressing on them, what is taking up the most room on their plate, what is their major concerns, what are their experiences. So, absolutely agree with that. And then I think for when there was a plethora of opportunity within the DNI space a few years ago. It's like, oh, everyone wants to jump in and feel like I can only make change if I'm in the role of DEI or something like that. But it's like the change has always been happening, even if there wasn't a central office. It was happening because people were in those various people leader type of roles or departments, and making sure that equity and inclusion and belonging and diversity were a part of the conversations of those day-to-day decisions that were being made that really impact the real work, the real people, and so forth. So I appreciate you calling that out. Speaking of, where there are those who are still in the effective the role itself, DEI itself, and they still might be a small office, may operate as almost like an individual contributor. Like you said, they influence, but they're not the ones making the decision. So a question about that, more so in particular, how do you see the opportunity to turn, maybe if it's an individual contributor type of role, into like a leadership role to have even greater influence, and instead of it being maybe a suggestion from the DEI office, it's a really strongly held recommendation that we're really going to move forward and implement?
Ria, I think it's Dr. Horton, because as I said earlier, I love calling you Dr. Horton because you make me proud. I am so happy that we have a doctor that looks like you, PhD or otherwise. Like I love it. So Dr. Horton, to answer your question, it's similar to what you said, right? You have to make relationships with those leaders so that you can articulate, what value you bring, and they can lean on you to help them achieve their goals. That is the foundation of a successful DEI leader. You also have to be able to articulate how your skills transfer from, if you are able to stand up a project. Victor said this earlier, you're a project manager, right? If you are able to garner people's support to go out into the community, you're an organizer, you're a leader. Because if you get your team members to go out and do something for the business, the salespeople didn't do that. You're a sales leader, right? You have to just be able to like use Google, use AI to help you craft that story. Tell it what you did, and it will tell you what you are. Like I love ChatGPT. Like I'm like, I did XYZ. What does that make me? Well, based on what you shared with me, here's what I think. I love it. Use it. It's a tool. It does not make, I was afraid it was going to make me dumb. It doesn't. It enhances your intelligence. So utilize the artificial intelligence.
Awesome.
Yes. Sorry, I think I'm finally caught up. Yes, I agree,
Okay.
and I think something that is probably the through line is the communication. You talked on that earlier. Like, do you have the confidence and the competence? And so within IDC, that's the purpose of having the credential, so that you can, one, be competent competent, but let's also have the confidence. And that comes
Yes.
through understanding the language and then being able to translate your skills to what it is that that leader is needing so that they can also reach their goal. One of the best oh, and I wish I could think of the story. It's an old time story, but essentially it's related to some research that was done. But it was these two groups pitted against each other. And the thing that brought them together was when they had a common goal. And so
Mm,
I think about when you're trying to develop those relationships with leaders who seem to, no, I don't do that. That's whatever. Or DEI is you're giving things away or whatever their misconception is. Like, how can you speak their language so that you can understand actually we actually have a common goal. We
right.
have a common challenge that we could work towards together. You have this, I have this, we could work together and move forward. And in so doing, you also bring out each other's humanity, because sometimes that could be helpful um, for because we also sometimes can have blind spots in DE&I as well. We're not
Absolutely.
perfect. And so
Yes.
we sometimes need to tap into our own self-reflection and be able to identify, okay, I have a blind spot, or I could tell I'm not trying to build this relationship with this leader because they're brash or whatever the case may be. They have strong views. So, but there might be times where you need to move things forward. And there is a way to do so, but a lot of it comes with the competent and the confidence and being able to communicate that.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, you have to all of the things that you said, but in addition to that, like you also need to understand your industry, right? You need to understand the business that you're in. I think that organizations like IDC are very important for teaching you the basics and also communing with people who understand what you're experiencing. But in addition to that, as a leader in DEI, you should be attending, if you work in architecture and engineering, you should be attending architecture and engineering conferences. If you work in finance, you should be attending finance conferences. Everybody should be attending technical conferences to know what's coming up, what's new, what's next. If you work in the healthcare industry, you need to understand healthcare back and forth. I mean, and I'm not encouraging you to be like the world's most educated person, but knowing a little bit that helps to weave some of what you've learned in the past together goes a long way in a conversation. When you're having a conversation with a business leader and they mention something and you're like, oh, I just read an article on that, that's like this person is paying attention to my needs. Relationships are everything. And if you are only invested in what you're doing and not what they're doing, why would they be invested in what you're doing and not what they're doing, right? It's a reciprocal relationship. Reciprocity is
Absolutely.
needed.
It builds that trust. I remember
Yes.
when I first entered into the corporate space, I was like, of course they're going to listen to me because I'm from, this HR department, da, 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 da. But it wasn't until I started speaking their language and their eyes would light up like, oh, you know about this? And I'm like, I know a little bit. Can you tell me a little bit more? And they would jump right in, and they became my hugest partner, advocate. Anything I asked, they would do it because they knew I cared about them. So then that helped them to want to care about what it was that I was presenting to them, because they knew I wasn't going to bring something that wasn't worthwhile for them. So
Right.
absolutely, there's ways of building those needed relationships. But
Pe-
again, here
yeah.
goes my connection.
People
So
love
I'm going to
talking
kick it
about
back over to
themselves.
Victor for our last question.
Okay.
All right. Before we do that question, I saw a couple of comments come through. Hello, Victor, Lori, and Dr. Ria. Nice to be here. Great information. It just says LinkedIn user, but I am pretty sure that is my good friend Jennifer. That was we worked for a short time together back in when I was in Jersey, and I think this is also her Microsoft Copilot. So she's using not ChatGPT, but Microsoft Copilot. She says it is the bomb. So yes,
Yes.
it is not the what is Terminator, the TX 300. It is not the.
Right.
It is going to be helpful. So embrace it, or be left behind, or
Be
be one
left
of those
behind.
squirrels in the movie. Right? You do not want to be
Yes.
in that situation. So
No.
okay, still talking about skills here. So we're talking about DEI leaders. What unique leadership skills do you think DEI practitioners have that may be overlooked or undervalued?
So I think that one of the things, or a couple things that we do really well in this space, if you're doing the job well and you're a student of your craft, you are always examining the motivation of human beings. You know, as a leader, how to garner support and to get people to view things differently. You also have a great ability to develop trust, not only trust with the leaders, but the people in your organization need to trust you. And I'm going to show you something. I hope you all can see this. I'm in my work office,
Oh, this is
and
new. This is great.
on, on my
You're going on
board
a
it
field trip.
says trust currency and trust wealthy. Me and my team, we were having a meeting, and we were talking about our we had a campaign to increase the number of people who identified as a person with a disability, and over 20% of our, nearly 20% of our population identified as a person with disability. But
Mhm.
what led up to that was we had focus groups, we had a panel discussion, we had training that was help that people in our disabilities ERG, which is called Champions Rise, helped us to develop. We had meetings with them to understand what their needs are. And we built trust with them, and then they trusted us with their information. Do you know the national average for organizations for people who identify in their workplace as a person with disability is around 2 to 3%?
Mm.
Mhm.
We 10x
Yep.
that. Do you know
Yeah.
why?
Yeah.
Because we
Because we
have
know before.
trust.
Yeah.
People
Mhm.
know us. They respect what we do because they know that we are on their side. All of the people in our organization are important to us. There's no demographic of human being that is pushed off to the wayside because you don't meet a certain criteria. We're here for every person in our organization, and that trust is the most valuable thing that we have. And I'm not trying to break it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just just music to my ears. I just love to hear that. And again, I tip my hat to you and your organization and what you're doing. Um, I know that the Attorney General is going to be naming names tomorrow in the private sector. So those of you that are listening in, um, hear me when I say this. You know, we are where we are to some extent because in 2020, the summer of 2020, when there was this social outcry, rightfully so, I will say, um, the reason why there was a lot of effort put in the DEI space was because there were so many people from different backgrounds that were in there. If it was a community, a couple of communities, we wouldn't have we wouldn't have gotten some of the advancement in the space that we got. It was because there were so many different perspectives that were out there. And I think we're at another precipice here where we're going to need to have that same kind of energy to push back. Because if they're going after the private sector, where you as a business are in a position to run your business as you see fit. But now, if the highest, what is it? What is the attorney general? Is that a prosecutor? Is it the highest
Yes.
law enforcement person in the land is now going to say that diversity, equity, and inclusion is unlawful? That is just ridiculous. Discrimination is unlawful, and
It
that is what we
absolutely
need to
is.
continue to
Yes.
fight for, so that we can fight against it. And we need all these perspectives again. So
Mhm.
I will leave you with uh, in what we've seen other people sort of already sort of shrieking away. Corporations, we need to
Mhm.
band together as corporations to say no, you are wrong, and fight against this. So I
Well,
will get
and
up.
some of those corporations are finding out that shrinking away from your commitments is bad for your bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and there are some that we're not mad at because you never once said that you supported diversity, equity, and inclusion. So
Mhm.
you not supporting it today doesn't bother us. But if you were on the bandwagon and very loud about your support, and then once there's a change in the administration, you back out, goodbye
Yeah,
forever.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I wish you luck in your recovery.
Right. Bad business decision. We're already seeing that.
Yeah.
And But we are also, we know again, as you have said early on, and then we will close out here, is that the majority of your workforce wants to be heard, wants
Yes.
to be seen, wants to bring them full selves to work. The majority does. There are some detractors. There always are in every workforce. There are some detractors. But even, I would say, even a pretty good percentage of that group still want to be heard, still want to bring themselves to work, and we need to understand that and deal with that. The very, very smallest percentage are the ones that are just trying to burn the place down and are being unreasonable. And there are levers to pull with that, because if they are being disrespectful in your workplace, that is, that as a business you're able to remove from your workplace. And we have seen that where there is this reverse discrimination cases that are coming out right now. But if
Mm-hmm.
you were doing all of the things that you were supposed to be doing correctly in terms of making sure that there is merit, that we are following the normal merit guidelines,
Right.
then you are protecting yourselves against any kind of liability on either side of who's claiming that they are being discriminated against. So
Mhm.
I will leave it with that. Lori, it's so good to see you.
You too.
I'm coming out there in I'm coming out there. We got a baby shower that we're going to be attending, and so I'm going to look you up so we can get together and have a soda or coffee or a adult beverage or something at some point. So I will reach out to you under separate cover. Dr. Ria, it is always good to have you on the team. This has just been a great year. And we don't have anything to announce because I think we're going to be doing, you look for us on LinkedIn as I'm wrapping up. If there are any questions, drop them in the chat here. If you're watching me on YouTube, us on YouTube, but it's my channel, so smash the subscribe button. We got to make sure that happens. Um, and then in closing, it's just great to see you. And where I was going with this is that I don't think we're going to be doing any lives for through the summer, but we will be doing some things on the link on the group page there, maybe some polls, some questions, that kind of thing. So make sure you're interacting with us on that, or just email us or DM us if there's something you're looking for, and we'll get it. We'll get it to you. So, any parting words? I'm going to go to our guest first.
Yes, good triumphs over evil always. So if you are doing the right thing for the right reasons for all of the people, then this time will pass and it will not impact you as much as it may impact others. But if you're not, if you were, performing, if it was performative support, then you get what you deserve.
This is so true. Sad but true. She always speaks the truth, y'all. So you heard it here first.
Yes.
Ria, any parting words?
I love the energy that Lori brought to the conversation today and just being like, I'm excited because with everything that's going on, it makes sure that you show up in the way that you probably always wanted to, need to, and desire to. And so you can kind of turn it into a blessing in disguise, if you will. So I love that perspective. I love that energy versus it being, oh, woe is up me. So I just will leave that as a hopefully encouragement for those on the call. Like this is the time to show up and show out, and I believe that we all have the capacity to do that.
Yes.
Love it, love it, love it. Last thing I will say is that Lori and I talked about her boss maybe coming on. So when we get through the summer, that's something that we'll want to talk about, having her boss come online. Would love to do that. And I'm toying around with, everybody's doing a podcast. I'm trying to figure out what it is. I don't want to do a podcast because everybody's doing that. So we may have an online talk show, and it's going to be about leadership. So Lori, I'm asking you now, will you come back and join me when I get this figured out, whatever it is I'm going to do?
Absolutely. But then I'm going to have to ask you to perhaps have a job waiting for me. Because if you ask me to talk too much, Victor, I'm going to get fired.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll make sure that one is again. It's just we will stay away from those scary letters, and we'll just talk about leadership.
It's not even the scary letters. It's talking about people in leadership. Like
Oh yeah, that's true.
you know,
That is,
not here
that
so
is true.
much, but I have some stories. I've worked for about 12 companies, and I have some stories about some CEOs that were interesting. I love my current CEO, and that is truth. This man is fantastic. He
That's
is
great.
a leader amongst leaders. But that has not always been my experience.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm gonna leave it right there on a great note about again. I tip my hat to your organization. That is great work that's being done there. I remember being there early on when I arrived in Jersey, hearing all of the work that was being done back then, and it
Mhm.
was like hair popping up on the back of my neck of how cool that was going on. So
Yeah.
kudos to you and your team. All right,
Thank you.
everybody. Thanks so much. Have
All
a
right.
great evening.
Bye,
Take care.
everyone.
Bye.